In the desolate, sunburned stretch of desert just south of Albuquerque, where the town of Belen, New Mexico clings quietly to existence, one family's word came to an unimaginable end in the early hours of December 14, 2024, at 3:30 a.m. A call came into the Valencia County Sheriff's Office. But this wasn't a typical emergency. The voice on the line was strangely calm, almost disturbingly detached. It belonged to 16-year-old Diego Lever, who told the dispatcher, "I just wanted to call and tell you I killed my parents." The operator, stunned, pressed for more. Diego's responses were emotionless. He claimed he had also killed his two siblings, and when asked why, he gave a haunting explanation. "Something bad possessed me." The call was surreal. The calmness, the quiet background, and the one haunting detail that made the operator's blood run cold. When asked about a noise behind him, Diego replied, "That's my dad, he's gargling." The dispatcher urged him to help, to do something, but he said simply, "No." Before the horror unfolded, the Lever family was known as a tight-knit, loving household. They lived in a quiet area called Camo Escondido, a secluded desert compound made up of several spaced-out residential plots. There was little traffic, no real nightlife, only the sounds of distant train horns and the soft rustle of the desert wind. The family consisted of Leonardo Lever, 42, a hard-working tech and data technician, and Rihanna Bencomo, 35, also known as Andy, a beloved volunteer firefighter with the Rio Community's fire department. Adrian, 16, Diego, 16, and Alexandra, 14. They are three teenage children. Leonardo's elderly father, also named Leonardo, who lived in a separate structure on the same property. From the outside, the Levers were the picture of stability and love. Home videos showed Leonardo taking the kids to go-kart tracks, climbing gyms, and virtual shooting ranges. Adriana, aside from her firefighter duties, helped with family construction projects. They loved, and they lived together in what seemed to be a strong, emotionally bonded family. There were no warning signs, no reports of abuse, no history of violence or mental illness. Nothing to prepare anyone for what would come next. When deputies arrived at the Lever property after Diego's 911 call, they approached with extreme caution. The area was pitch black, the sky moonless. A few Christmas lights still glowed faintly on the house, a stark contrast to what lay inside. Diego emerged from the shadows, hands raised, visibly intoxicated and clutching his pet bird. He surrendered peacefully. Officers noted he seemed more concerned for the bird's safety than for what had just happened. What they found inside the home was worse than their darkest fears. 4 bodies were found. Leonardo the father in a bedroom, Adrian, and Alexandra in the hallway, each with a single bullet wound to the head. The house was covered in blood. On the floors, walls, and ceiling, a Raja pistol, still bloody, sat on the dining table. Shattered glass, a broken table, and spent shell casings told a silent story of what must have been a sudden, violent rampage. It appeared that while most of the family was asleep, Diego and his father had stayed up drinking. At some point during the night, Diego snapped. One by one, he executed his entire family with chilling precision. No multiple wounds, no chaotic gunfire, just 4 clean, calculated shots. The most chilling part of this case is not the physical violence, it's the psychological horror. When Diego made the 911 call, his father was still alive, lying on the ground, choking on his own blood, but Diego coldly and calmly refused to help. He was drunk beyond reason, possibly hallucinating and talking about being possessed. When asked if he had ever wanted to hurt his family before, he answered no. When asked why he did it, "I don't know, something bad possessed me." That was the answer. At first, police fear there might be an accomplice or another victim missing. 6 people lived on the property. 1 was arrested, all were dead. That left one, the grandfather. Was he murdered too? Did he run? Was he involved? Officers searched every building on the compound, including a garage, an RV, and several sheds. Weapons drawn, clearing room by room in the dark desert night. Finally, they reached a separate building. Inside, they found the grandfather, shirtless, groggy, confused, and completely unaware that his entire family had been murdered just next door. He was alive, but about to receive the worst news imaginable. He had lost 2 generations of his family, his son, his daughter-in-law, and his grandchildren, all in one night at the hands of his own grandson. News broke by sunrise. Local headlines couldn't believe it. A beloved local firefighter, her hard-working husband, 3 innocent teenagers, all gone. The entire Belen school district fell into mourning. Diego attended Belen High School, Alexandra was in Belen Middle School, and Adrian studied at the School of Dreams Academy. Each school offered grief counseling. Social media exploded with tributes and disbelief. Friends couldn't make sense of what had happened. A GoFundMe titled Familia Leva was launched to cover funeral costs. It raised over $6,000 in days. One teacher said, "I would never have thought something like this would happen." Diego didn't seem like the type ever. The big question that looms over this case is why? How does a normal 60-year-old, no mental health history, no violence, no signs, suddenly became a mass murder? There are several theories. 1. Extreme intoxication. Diego was drunk to a dangerous level. His behavior and speech showed signs of blackout intoxication, which could impair reasoning and impulse control. But is that an excuse for coldly executing your family? 2nd, psychotic break. Diego claimed repeatedly that he was possessed, that a voice told him to kill. This could point to a mental health crisis, possibly schizophrenia, or another psychotic episode triggered by stress or alcohol. 3. Suppressed trauma or rage. Though nothing has surfaced publicly, investigators haven't ruled out the possibility of hidden family tension or abuse. But at this time, there is no evidence supporting that theory. Finally, calculated execution. The single headshots, the lack of panic, the focus. Indeed, some experts suggest this wasn't a blind rage. It was calculated, even if irrational. As of June 2025, Diego Leva remains in custody. He's been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. In New Mexico, that means he'll be tried as an adult. And if convicted, he could face life in prison. Although this state does not have the death penalty, before trial, Diego is undergoing psychiatric evaluations. His defense will likely lean heavily on mental illness or psychosis, extreme intoxication, and lack of premeditation. But the prosecution may argue that the precision of the killing, one shot each, all in head, shows his was deliberate and methodical. As the town waits for answers, the case of Diego Lever continues to haunt everyone who hears it. A boy with no history of violence, a family with no enemies, a night that started in silence and ended in slaughter. 4 coffins, 1 survivor, 1 boy either consumed by madness or gripped by something much darker, who will likely never walk free again. The trial may eventually provide answers, or it may leave us with even more disturbing questions.